All right, so as some of you may know, I've been trying to keep an updated list of Palantir's commercial clients, and there's been a number of updates since I last showed this on my YouTube channel, so let's get into it today. First of all, we've now got 103 clients on the list, as well as 10 strategic partners, which I've pulled out from the client list and put in a separate tab because they're not exactly the same thing as a paying client. And I'll get into the distinction in a couple of minutes. But going back to the commercial clients list, having 103 is a pretty big bump up from the around 70 or 80 I had at the last time when I showed this on the channel. And a big reason for that is that I've included all of the SPAC investments and all of the companies that have been brought into Palantir through Foundry for Builders. Of course, there's also been a few new commercial clients that have been announced recently. For example, a really big one is the Royal Bank of Canada, which is obviously a bank in the financial sectors, and it's actually the 78th largest company in the world by market cap. So a pretty significant client to have on the list here, and we're really starting to see Palantir capture more and more of the financial sector with some of the largest banks in the world. Oh, also, I should mention there's going to be a link to this spreadsheet in the description box of the video, so let me know if you see any mistakes or if you see any glaring absences of companies that are definitely Palantir clients, but that just haven't made it onto the list yet, because as of the last earnings report, Palantir had reported 147 commercial clients, and we're currently at 103. So we're getting closer, although some of these have been more recently announced. And of course, it's certainly likely that Palantir has added to its commercial client list over the past 3 months, or at least we definitely hope so. But the 147 commercial client list number is probably a little bit obsolete by now. Still, we're getting closer, and I'd like this to be as accurate as possible. Keeping an up-to-date client list for Palantir is not as simple as it might seem though. For starters, they don't actually publicly release the details of all of their clients and all of the deals that they're signing. Also, in some cases, there's a little bit of gray area in terms of what Palantir might be counting as a client when they're publishing those figures in the earnings report. So for example, these two companies, Puegat and Fiat Chrysler, I'm probably butchering the pronunciation of this one. Anyways, they're both subsidiaries of another company called Stellantis. And so it's not 100% clear to me if Palantir would count each of these as separate companies or if they would just go on the list under the parent company as one single client. Either way though, this is a living product and I intend to keep updating it as new information comes to light, as we learn about new Palantir clients, and as we sort of unpack some of these interesting nuance or gray areas. Either way, it's really interesting to see, especially if we go through the list of industries that Palantir is managing to get into, because as you can see, they are all over the place. We're dealing with energy and oil and gas, financial companies, pharmaceutical companies, software and IT, telecom, and on and on and on. You know, some of the largest mining companies in the world, one of the largest beer or beverage companies in the world. They have really got their fingers into practically every major sector or industry around the world. And I fully expect that it's going to continue to expand and that they'll leverage some of the clients that they've been getting. For example, with the recent announcement of the Royal Bank of Canada, it's possible that Palantir could leverage that partnership to get other Canadian banks, for example, Toronto Dominion or Scotiabank, which also are some of the largest companies in the world. And we're not just seeing that in the Canadian banking sector, but all over the place. For example, with oil and gas, now they have ExxonMobil, they have BP. You know, they're basically going to be able to cement their status in many of these industries as they continue to prove their value. And so they're not only capturing one small part of an industry, they're going out, they're getting some of the largest clients in those industries, and then they're leveraging that to expand and to capture more and more value. Now let's briefly talk about these strategic partners and how this works, because these aren't necessarily exactly paying clients for Palantir, but rather they're partnerships that Palantir can leverage to get their Foundry or their Gotham software into the hands of more companies or more government agencies. And so as Palantir signs up more and more strategic partners, it means that more potential clients are going to have access, and then it could lead to, again, another snowball effect. And so some interesting ones on the list here. We already knew about AWS. This Google thing is not necessarily a confirmed formalized partnership, But over the past couple of weeks, we've seen some pretty high-level people at Google talking about how Palantir can be leveraged on Google's cloud software to do some interesting things. A couple of weeks ago, Palantir announced a strategic partnership with Jacobs, which is a construction and engineering company that works in infrastructure. And so that could lead to more interesting avenues for Palantir to get new clients that work on infrastructure, for example, electric vehicles across America. And then another interesting partnership that was recently announced is this Carahsoft one, which is basically one of the largest companies that supplies software and IT services to the US government. And so by partnering with them, Palantir is potentially going to be able to capture more US government agencies and expand their Gotham business that way. And this last one on the list, Indu AI, is an interesting one because it seems like what they're doing is reselling Palantir software, packaging it up, modularizing it, and then selling it to clients. And I'm not exactly sure how the financial arrangements work here, if Palantir is licensing the software, if they're taking a commission on Indu AI sales. But what this company is offering is basically Palantir Foundry. And you can look at their website, they actually confirm that they are working with Palantir. And if you look at some of these demos of what they're offering, it basically looks exactly like Palantir Foundry. Anyway, some of these partnerships are really interesting because you can see Palantir is working with companies that many people might consider to be their competitors. And if Palantir software can be integrated with these other companies' software products, or if they can leverage these strategic partnerships to sign up new deals, then really there's a world of opportunity here. So yeah, all of this combined with the fact that Palantir has made a concerted effort to scale their sales force over the past couple of quarters, I think we're going to see some interesting things happen. And I'm really excited to see all of the new client announcements that are almost certainly going to be coming out over the next couple of quarters. I'll keep updating the spreadsheet as we go along. And of course, if you have any input to provide, don't hesitate to drop a comment down below or send me an email because I want to make sure that this is as accurate as can be. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you later.